The Oval Office air hung thick with the scent of polished leather and fresh coffee, steam curling from a half-empty mug on the resolute desk. President Donald Trump leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight, his fingers drumming a staccato rhythm on the armrest. Across from him, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sat rigid, his tie slightly askew, a tablet glowing in his lap with the offending video paused mid-frame. The screen showed Senator Mark Kelly's face, stern and unyielding, flanked by 5 other Democratic lawmakers in crisp suits against a blurred Capitol backdrop. "It's sedition," Trump growled, his voice low but edged with fire. He jabbed a finger at the tablet. "Kelly and his crew telling my troops to disobey orders? That's not debate. That's treason." Hegseth nodded slowly, his eyes flicking to the door where 2 aides hovered, notebooks in hand. The room's heavy curtains blocked the late November sun, casting long shadows that made the space feel like a bunker. Hegseth cleared his throat. "Sir, the video dropped yesterday. Kelly's framing it as a reminder of the oath to the Constitution. But the timing. Right after our Caribbean ops announcement, it's no coincidence. We've sunk 3 cartel boats in the last week alone, 27 suspects neutralized, legal under ROE, but critics are screaming international law violations." Trump snorted, pushing the mug aside with a clink. "Legal? Tell that to the families of those 80 dead from prior runs. Kelly's stirring the pot because Arizona's border bleeds cash. $2.4 billion in smuggling losses last year. He's protecting his state's cartels." In a dimly lit Senate office 3 blocks away, Mark Kelly paced the worn carpet, the hum of a space heater battling the chill seeping through the windows. Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin sat at the conference table, her laptop open to a spreadsheet of military deployment stats, while Representative Jason Crow leaned against the wall, arms crossed. The video had been their idea, a quick clip filmed in a committee room, urging service members to reject manifestly illegal orders amid whispers of domestic troop surges. Now it was viral, with 1.2 million views in 24 hours. Kelly stopped, rubbing his jaw. Trump's Truth Social post hit at dawn. "Traitors should face trial, sedition punishable by death." He's not bluffing. "My office got 3 threat calls this morning alone." Slotkin glanced up, her voice steady. "We knew the risk. But with his plans for National Guard in Chicago, 10,000 troops per the leaks, someone had to speak. The Posse Comitatus Act isn't a suggestion. It's the line." Crow pushed off the wall, his combat boots scuffing the floor. "And the Caribbean strikes? 80 fatalities, no arrests. That's not interdiction, that's escalation. If we back down now, Congress splits wide open." Back in the Oval, Trump stood, circling the desk like a predator. Hegseth followed with the tablet, pulling up a map dotted with red. Pins. Caribbean hotspots where U.S. vessels had fired on suspected drug runners. "The Pentagon's ready to investigate Kelly," Hegseth said. "Recall him to active duty as a retired captain. Court-martial for undermining chain of command. But it'll inflame the Hill. Dems control the Senate Foreign Relations Committee." Trump halted, his eyes narrowing. "Good. Let them burn. Call in the speaker. Johnson owes me. Tell him 47 Republicans in the House back this, or they lose funding for their districts. $15 billion in defense pork." The phone on the desk buzzed, a secure line. Trump snatched it, his face hardening as a voice crackled through. "Mr. President, it's the Joint Chiefs. Kelly's videos circulating in barracks. Morale's dipping, reports of 12% increase in unauthorized absences since the election." Trump slammed the receiver down, the sound echoing like a gavel. "See? He's fracturing the military from within. We hit back hard." Across town, Kelly's meeting fractured when Slotkin's phone lit up with a breaking alert. Pentagon statement launching a probe into the senator for compromising military order. Crow exhaled sharply. "They're weaponizing the Uniform Code. Article 94, mutiny and sedition. Penalties up to death in wartime." Kelly's fist tightened on the table edge. "This isn't about me. It's the midterms. If Trump paints us as traitors, we lose 15 Senate seats. But if we fold, he deploys troops domestically, violating the 74 Act, sparking riots in 20 cities." Slotkin typed furiously. "We counter with a hearing. Subpoena Hegseth on the ops budget. $500 million unaccounted per GAO leaks." The small clock on Kelly's wall ticked past noon, the room growing stuffier as tension coiled. Crow stepped forward. "Mark, your wife's shooting in 11. Political violence isn't abstract. Trump's rhetoric lit the fuse last time." Kelly met his gaze, the weight of 25 years in uniform pressing down. "I swore to defend the Constitution, not a man. We go public. Joint presser at 3 p.m. In the Oval, Trump watched Fox News on a wall screen, Kelly's face now plastered beside his own. "They're splitting Congress," Hegseth murmured. "House GOP's wavering. Johnson says 22 holdouts fear voter backlash." Trump smirked, but his eyes were steel. "Then we remind them, my base is 74 million strong. Leak the investigation details. Make it personal." As the sun dipped low, casting the Capitol in orange, a White House aide burst into Kelly's office unannounced, envelope in hand. Kelly tore it open, a sealed Pentagon memo, stamped urgent. His face paled. "They were calling me to duty. Trial set for next week." The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly in the Senate Armed Services Committee room, casting a sterile glow over the mahogany table scarred by years of tense negotiations. Senator Mark Kelly sat at the head, his uniform jacket from the recall notice draped over the chair back like a discarded skin. Around him, the group from the video huddled. Alyssa, Slotkin tapping a pen against her notepad, Jason Crow scrolling through emails on his phone, and the others, Chris DeLuzio, Chrissy Houlihan, Maggie Goodlander, leaning in, faces drawn. Outside, protesters chanted faintly, their signs demanding, "Oath to Constitution, not King." Kelly unfolded the Pentagon memo again, its edges crisp. "Recall to active duty under Title 10. Court-martial hearing in 7 days. They're citing Article 88. Contempt toward officials, and 94 for sedition. If convicted, it's 5 years minimum, up to death if they twist it wartime." Slotkin exhaled, the sound sharp in the quiet. Hegseth's fingerprints all over this. The video's at 2.8 million views now, but Trump's base is flooding comments with calls for arrests. We've got 47% of active duty polls showing doubt in chain of command since his inauguration. Crow set his phone down with a thud. The Caribbean strikes are the spark. 3 ops last month. 12 vessels sunk, 80 confirmed dead, mostly migrants per leaked manifests. No drugs recovered in 2 cases. Trump's claiming 90% success rate, but GAO reports show $320 million spent, 0 indictments. DeLuzio nodded, pulling up a grainy photo on his tablet. A smoldering boat adrift in turquoise waters. "It's not interdiction, it's a message to Venezuela. Our ops mirror their border patrols. If we subpoena the logs, we expose the overreach." Across Pennsylvania Avenue, in the Situation Room's dim red glow, President Trump paced before a bank of screens flickering with cable news clips. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood by the coffee urn, pouring black into a mug, while Attorney General Pam Bondi reviewed a dossier thick as a Bible. The air smelled of stale donuts and printer ink, the hum of servers underscoring the tension. "They're scheduling a hearing for tomorrow," Hegseth said, handing Trump the mug. "Schumer's pushing it through. Dems hold the gavel. Kelly's playing the veteran card, polling at 62% approval in Arizona." Trump sipped, grimacing at the bitterness. "Schumer's a puppet. Tell Johnson to whip the House. No funding for Senate ops unless they block it. We've got 52 GOP senators. That's leverage. And the military? Leak that 15% of troops in the Pacific Fleet," echoed Kelly's words in anonymous surveys. Bondi looked up, her glasses perched low. "Legal angles solid. Recall Kelly, charge the others with conspiracy under 18 U.S.C. 2384. Seditious conspiracy. Fines up to $250,000, 20 years. But the video's protected speech. SCOTUS precedent from 1969. If we push too hard, it backfires on midterms. Projections show us losing 18 House seats if this drags." Trump halted, pointing at a screen showing Kelly's presser setup. "Protected? It's mutiny. Call in the FBI director. I want wiretaps on Slotkin's office. Werstein Ostaf Moswatlis. Rumors she's got CIA ties feeding her strike data." Back in the committee room, the door swung open with a creak, admitting Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, his coat dusted with November frost. He dropped a folder onto the table. Internal White House emails, redacted but damning. Leaked from a whistleblower in Hegseth's office. Draft orders for 5,000 National Guard to Chicago by December 1st, bypassing governors. Cited as drug enforcement, but it's riot control. Posse comitatus be damned. Kelly's eyes scanned the pages. Timelines, unit deployments, $180 million budget line. This proves it. Trump's turning the military inward. If we air this at the hearing, his approval dips to 41%. Slotkin stood, her chair scraping. "But the risk. Pentagon's already auditing my committee access. One wrong move and they recall all of us vets." Crow interjected, voice low. "Not all. Goodlander's intel background makes her a target, but Houlihan's Air Force stint? They could freeze her pension, $92,000 annual. The group fell silent, the clock ticking toward evening. Schumer pocketed the folder. We go forward. Joint statement at 6 p.m. The oath binds us all. It'll split the caucus. 5 moderate Dems are wavering. In the Situation Room, an aide burst in, tablet in hand. Sir, Schumer's got leaks. Our guard plans. It's on CNN. Trump's face reddened, mug shattering on the floor in a spray of ceramic. Find the source. Bondi, expedite the charges. Kelly's trial starts Monday. No delays. Hegseth's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, paling. Joint Chiefs just issued a memo. Neutrality in political matters. They're pulling back. The hearing room filled with reporters as Kelly took the podium, flashbulbs popping like gunfire. This isn't about one video, he began, voice steady. It's about 2.1 million service members swearing to the Constitution, not unchecked power. The Caribbean ops? 112 civilian casualties in 6 months, per UN estimates. Farms 300% higher than Obama's drone strikes. Slotkin flanked him, adding, and domestic plans? 20 cities targeted, $2 billion reallocated from VA hospitals. The crowd murmured, cameras whirring. Trump watched from the Oval, fist clenched. They're fracturing us. Hegseth leaned in. Morale reports. 22% of officers now question ops legality. As Kelly rapped, a shout from the back. Senator, anonymous tip. FBI raid on your home tonight. The raid sirens wailed distant through the night, red and blue lights flickering across the blinds of Mark Kelly's Virginia home. He stood in the living room, hands raised as 6 FBI agents in tactical vests swept the space, their boots thudding on hardwood. Gabby Giffords, his wife, clutched a shawl in the doorway, her eyes sharp despite the hour. An agent unsealed a warrant, search for classified materials related to military ops under the Espionage Act. Kelly's jaw tightened. This is retaliation. My Senate office has clearances, same as any vet. By dawn, the agents departed with 2 laptops and a stack of printed emails, the leaked guard plans from Schumer's folder. Kelly's phone buzzed nonstop. 1.4 million new video views overnight, polls showing. 58% public support for his stance, but the cost mounted, Arizona donors pulling $2.3 million in pledges, fearing midterm fallout. Slotkin called from her car, voice hushed. CNN's got the raid footage. Trump's tweeting, justice served, traitors exposed. We need to hit back with facts. In the Capitol basement, a secure briefing room smelled of damp concrete and machine oil from the vents. Schumer presided over a huddle of Democrats. Kelly, Slotkin, Crow, plus new faces. Senator Tammy Duckworth in her wheelchair, Representative Ruben Gallego nursing a coffee. A projector hummed, displaying redacted manifests from the Caribbean strikes. 112 confirmed civilian deaths since September, 67% non-combatants per anonymous Navy logs. These aren't drug boats, Duckworth said, tapping the screen. Fishermen from Haiti, migrants from Venezuela. Trump's ops, 24 vessels sunk, 0 kilos seized in half the cases. $420 million taxpayer dollars, and the UN's calling it a war crime. Gallego leaned forward, his marine tattoos peeking from his cuff. Leaked from a destroyer captain in Norfolk. He says ROE, rules of engagement, were loosened without congressional oversight. Strikes approved via executive order, bypassing the War Powers resolution. If we subpoena Hegseth, we force the numbers public. 300% spike in migrant crossings post-ops, not a drop. Kelly nodded, but his eyes flicked to the door. The recall hearings today. Pentagon stacking the board. 3 Trump appointees on the panel. 1 conviction, and I'm out of the Senate by 26. Across the street, in a nondescript DOJ conference room, Attorney General Pam Bondi flipped through the raid hall, her heels clicking on tile. President Trump joined via secure video from the Oval, his face filling the screen like a storm cloud. Hegseth sat beside her, a fresh report in hand. Military surveys showing 28% of enlisted personnel now citing oath conflicts in anonymous feedback. The leaks are killing us, Bondi said. That captain? He's cooperating with Dems. Fed them manifests. Charges against Kelly. Add mishandling classified info. 10 years minimum. Trump's voice boomed through the speakers. Make it stick. The boats? We saved 4,000 American lives from fentanyl. $18 billion in damages last year. Kelly's video caused this dissent. 15 bases report lowered readiness scores. Hegseth interjected, voice low. Sir, international blowback. Mexico's threatening tariffs on 22% of our exports if ops continue. And the Joint Chiefs? They're briefing Congress privately. Neutrality memo's a shield, but it's eroding your command. Trump waved it off. Call in the ambassador. Remind them, our aid's $1.2 billion. They toe the line or lose it. The hearing chamber buzzed with C-SPAN cameras as Kelly entered, flanked by JAG counsel. The panel, 2 generals and a judge advocate, stared down from the dais, the air thick with polished brass and murmured sidebars. Captain Kelly, the chair intoned, your video compromised 2.3 million service members' loyalty. Evidence, post-release desertion inquiries up 19%. Kelly stood tall, his retired uniform pressed. My oath was to the Constitution, not blind obedience. These ops, 80 migrants killed in one strike alone, women, children, per manifests, illegal under Geneva protocols. Slotkin testified next, her voice cutting through the hush. The domestic angle. Guard deployments to 14 cities, $750 million diverted from disaster relief. Chicago's mayor sued. Federal judge blocked it yesterday, citing posse comitatus. Trump's not fighting drugs. He's militarizing politics. The chamber erupted in whispers as Crow slid forward a folder. Declassified emails showing Hegseth overriding legal reviews on 3 strikes. Losses. 45% of targeted boats carried no narcotics. Just families fleeing cartels we armed in the 80s. Trump watched the feed in the Oval, remote gripped tight. They're twisting it. An aide entered, pale. Sir, Duckworth just announced a bipartisan bill, 10 Republicans co-sponsoring oversight on ops. Polls, your approval at 43% on military issues. Hegseth, patched in from the Pentagon, added, and the captain's testimony? He's got manifests naming vessels, international waters, but fired on without warning. Casualties, 112 dead, 200 wounded. The panel deliberated in a side room, the clock ticking past noon. Kelly waited, sweat beading under his collar. The chair returned, gavel in hand. Proceedings advanced to full court-martial. Bail denied. Risk of flight. Gasps rippled. Slotkin surged forward. This is a purge! Outside, protesters swelled to 5,000, chants echoing, Oath over orders! As agents escorted Kelly toward holding, his phone vibrated in his pocket. A text from an unknown number. Manifests are fake. Real ones show your video scripted by foreign actors. Meet at midnight? The holding cell in the Joint Base Andrews detention wing echoed with the distant roar of F-35 engines taking off into the night sky. Senator Mark Kelly sat on the edge of the cot, the concrete floor cold through his socks, the anonymous text glowing on his smuggled burner phone. Manifests fake. Video scripted by foreign actors. Midnight, Foggy Bottom safe house. His mind raced. 112 civilian deaths in the strikes? Or a setup? The door's lock clicked and a guard entered, tossing a blanket. Lights out in 5. No calls. Kelly pocketed the phone, the weight of 25 years' service turning to lead. By morning, the story broke nationwide. Kelly detained, video views surging to 4.7 million, with 62% of independents siding against the recall per CNN polls. In a Georgetown coffee shop thick with espresso steam and murmured conversations, Alyssa Slotkin met the sender, a jittery State Department analyst named Elena Vasquez, her hands trembling around a latte. Vasquez slid a USB drive across the table. Not all manifests are fake, but some are doctored. Hegseth's office altered 14 strike reports. Claimed drug. Boats, but satellite logs show fishing trawlers from Haiti. Casualties, 83 confirmed dead since September, 70% civilians, women and kids, $1.2 billion in UN humanitarian aid disrupted. Slotkin pocketed the drive, glancing at the window where rain streaked the glass. Who's the foreign angle? Vasquez leaned in, voice a whisper. Russian bots amplified the video, 1.8 million shares from GRU-linked accounts. But Trump's team knew. They used it to justify ops. Operation Southern Spear, 12,000 troops now in the Caribbean, USS Ford Carrier Group, just 120 miles from Venezuela's coast. Maduro's mobilizing 4 million militia, escalation we can't afford. Slotkin nodded, her pen clicking shut. Schumer's calling an emergency session. We subpoena Vasquez's boss, expose the tampering. In the Pentagon's E-ring corridor, fluorescent lights hummed over classified briefings, the air sharp with toner and tension. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stormed into a conference room, slamming a redacted dossier on the table where Joint Chiefs Chairman C.Q. Brown waited, flanked by Admiral Lisa Franchetti. The analyst leak, Vasquez. She's feeding Slotkin. Polls show military approval at 39%, down 12 points since the hearing. Brown, his uniform crisp, steepled his fingers. Sir, the ops data. 21 strikes, 0 major seizures. Venezuelan retaliation. They've jammed our GPS in the southern sector, costing $450 million in reroutes. Congress is fracturing. 10 GOP senators demanding briefings. Franchetti pulled up a holographic map on the secure terminal, red dots pulsing over the Caribbean. 2 Marine Expeditionary Force is at 2,200 strong on the Iwo Jima, but morale's cracking. 18% of crews report oath dilemmas in surveys. Trump's push for land strikes? Dubious under war powers, last notification to Congress was vague on non-state combatants. Hegseth exhaled, rubbing his temples. He wants Maduro's head, $50 million bounty. But if we reveal the civilian toll, it's blowback. Mexico's tariffs on 22% of our ag exports, $18 billion hit. Brown stood. We briefed the Hill today. Neutrality holds, or we lose the chain. The Senate floor crackled with urgency. C-SPAN feeds alive as Schumer banged the gavel. Kelly's empty seat loomed like a ghost. Slotkin at the podium with the USB projected. Altered manifests. GRU footprints. These aren't errors, schemes. $420 million spent on Southern Spear, 83 lives lost, and cartels like Trendy Aragua laugh. Fentanyl deaths up 15% stateside. Gasps rippled. Senator Lindsey Graham shifted uncomfortably, his phone buzzing. This implicates our side, too, he muttered to an aide. Duckworth wheeled forward. New interests. Big Oil's lobbying. $2.5 billion Venezuelan leases frozen. They're pressuring Trump to invade, Crow added from the side, voice rising. Victims' families. 47 Haitian survivors in Miami detention, testifying tomorrow. Society's reacting. Protests in 12 cities, 20,000 strong. Elite donors. Soros pledged $10 million. To our defense fund. The chamber divided. 28 Democrats united, but 5 moderates wavered, whispering about midterm losses. Projected 15 Senate flips if Kelly's convicted. Graham stood, face flushed. Mr. Leader, this is partisan. But the numbers... If true, we audit Hegseth. Schumer's eyes narrowed. Motion to subpoena. Approved. 54-46. Across town, in a Mar-a-Lago side office overlooking the Atlantic, President Trump paced the Persian rug, Bondi on speakerphone. The analyst's a traitor. Wire her. Kelly's rotting, but this leak shifts the board. Public outrage at 55% against ops. Bondi paused, papers rustling. Sir, secondary players emerging. CIA Director Burns is briefing Maduro quietly. Back channel to de-escalate. And Graham's flip? He's got South Carolina bases at risk. $1.1 billion in contracts. Trump halted, fist on the desk. Pull Burns. Tell him loyalty or resignation. As evening fell, rain pounding the Capitol dome. Slotkin returned to the safe house, USB in hand. Vasquez waited, but the door creaked open to reveal a shadow. FBI badge glinting. You're both under arrest for espionage. Slotkin's heart sank. The drive's data now in enemy hands. But Vasquez smiled faintly before cuffs clicked. Too late. I sent copies to the press. The real manifests drop at dawn. Dawn light filtered through the barred windows of the FBI's holding facility, casting striped shadows on the steel table where Alyssa Slotkin sat cuffed, her blouse rumpled from the night's interrogation. Elena Vasquez, across from her, nursed a bruised wrist, the room's air stale with coffee grounds and fluorescent hum. An agent paced, flipping through printed manifests. 142 civilian casualties in Caribbean strikes, not 83. Doctored reports hid drone footage showing families on board. These drop at 8 a.m., Slotkin said, voice steady. CNN's got them. Trump's ops just became a scandal. $520 million spent, 24 vessels sunk, 0 cartels dismantled. Vasquez nodded, her eyes darting to the one-way mirror. The GRU angle was bait. Russian disinfo to muddy waters. But the real leak? From inside, a Hegseth aide, scared of court-martial for falsifying logs. The door banged open. Special agent in charge entered, dossier in hand. Press is exploding. Protests at 35,000 nationwide. VA hospitals losing $1.8 billion in redirected funds. You're both charged, conspiracy, mishandling secrets. But if you flip on Kelly... Slotkin met his gaze. We're vets. Oath first. In the White House war room, screens blared the manifest headlines. President Trump slamming a fist on the oak table, scattering classified binders. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood rigid, his tie loose, while CIA Director John Ratcliffe patched in from Langley, face grim on the video feed. The room smelled of burnt toast from the breakfast tray, tension thick as fog. "This torpedoes Southern Spear," Hegseth said. "Venezuela's Maduro just went on TV. 4 million militia mobilized, calling it imperialist. Murder. Our carrier group's jammed. GPS blackouts costing $60 million daily." Trump paced, his shoes scuffing the carpet. "Counter it. Leak Kelly's emails. Show he coordinated with the leaker. Bondi's filing seditious conspiracy against Slotkin, too. 20 years, $250,000 fine." Ratcliffe interjected, voice crackling. "Sir, intelligence community pushback. Burns met Maduro's envoy last night. Back channel to pause ops. Allies are balking. UK's pulling joint exercises, citing Geneva violations. Casualties, 142 dead, 68% migrants. UN's demanding tribunals." Trump halted, eyes narrowing. "Pull Burns. Tell him treason or trial. We hit back. Authorize cyber ops on Caracas networks. Disrupt their propaganda." Across the Potomac, in a federal courthouse's wood-paneled chamber, Senator Chuck Schumer huddled with Tammy Duckworth and Ruben Gallego, the air heavy with leather and ink from legal pads. Kelly's court-martial loomed, but the manifests shifted the tide. 55% public outrage per Gallup. Midterms projections flipping 12 House seats to Dems. "We file injunction," Schumer said, tapping a motion. "Block the recall. Posse Comitatus violated in 14 cities' guard plans. $2.2 billion from FEMA, now militarized." Duckworth wheeled closer, her voice sharp. "Higher authority, Supreme Court fast track, Roberts Ozos, last term's ruling on executive overreach." Gallego pulled up a tablet, Venezuelan footage playing. Burning U.S. flags in Caracas squares, 125,000 troops massing coasts. International actors, Brazil's Lula, threatening sanctions on our soy, $14 billion trade. But our side? Bipartisan bill now at 42 co-sponsors, including McConnell's whisperers. If we subpoena Ratcliffe, expose the cyber push. The judge entered, gavel poised. Schumer stood. "Your Honor, evidence of fraud in military logs demands stay. Stakes. The system fractures. Oath to Constitution, not one man." The judge scanned the manifests, pausing. Hearing granted. Trump admin responds by noon. Back in the war room, an aide burst in, phone extended. "Sir, Maduro's envoy in D.C. demands parley or they sink a supply ship. 300 tons of aid, $45 million value." Trump's face hardened. "Negotiate? No. Tell Hegseth. Greenlight drone patrols, double the strikes, show strength." Hegseth hesitated, glancing at Ratcliffe's feed. "That escalates to war, sir. Joint Chiefs warn, 28% readiness drop from dissent." Trump waved it off. "Do it, or you're next." The courthouse erupted as the injunction news hit. Reporters swarming, chants outside swelling to 8,000. Slotkin and Vasquez were released on bail, the manifest's copies viral. 142 lives, $520 million wasted. Duckworth addressed the press, rain slicking her hair. "This isn't politics, it's the military soul. 2.1 million sworn to law, not whim." But as they retreated, Schumer's phone buzzed. Anonymous tip. Ratcliffe's cyber op launched. Venezuela's grids failing. Retaliation incoming. Hackers targeting Pentagon. 500,000 personnel. Files exposed. In a dimly lit Langley Ops Center, Ratcliffe watched the feeds. Venezuelan missiles arming. 12,000 U.S. troops on alert. Hegseth called. Voice urgent. "Abort the cyber. Maduro's bluffing, but polls show 70% Americans oppose intervention." Ratcliffe paused, then. "Too late. It's live." Alarms blared. First breach. Kelly's cell door unlocking remotely. Alarms shrieked through the Joint Base Andrews corridors, red emergency lights pulsing like a heartbeat as guards rushed toward the detention wing. Senator Mark Kelly bolted from his unlocked cell, the cyber breach's code still flickering on the hacked panel. 500,000 personnel files exposed in the first wave, Venezuelan hackers claiming credit on dark web forums. He grabbed a guard's radio in the chaos, barking coordinates. "Evacuate the East Block, intruders inbound." But the voice on the line was Slotkin's, patched through from the courthouse. "Mark, it's a feint. Ratcliffe's op backfired. Maduro's retaliation hit our grids, but the breach, it's internal. Get to the perimeter." Schumer's en route with the injunction ruling. Kelly sprinted down the stairwell, boots echoing on metal grates, the base's floodlights cutting through pre-dawn fog. Outside, 2,000 protesters had swelled overnight, barricades toppling as military police formed lines, tear gas canisters hissing in the air. His mind flashed to the manifests. 142 civilians dead in Southern Spear. $620 million in ops costs now under congressional audit. UN sanctions looming on 18% of U.S. exports. The Supreme Court had fast-tracked the case. Roberts' clerk leaked a 5-4 lean toward blocking Trump's recall, citing executive overreach under the 1973 War Powers Act. In the White House bunker, buried under Pennsylvania Avenue, President Trump hunched over a secure console, the room's air recyclers whirring against the scent of sweat and scorched circuits. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth wiped his brow. Screens showing Venezuelan missile silos arming, 4 million militia mobilized. Their prolonged resistance plans leaked. Guerrilla sabotage from 280 sites, targeting U.S. assets in the Caribbean. CIA Director John Ratcliffe paced, his tie askew. The cyber ops contained, sir. Only 12% of files compromised, but Maduro's broadcast. He's offering asylum to Kelly, calling him a hero against imperialism. Polls: 68% Americans oppose intervention, up 15 points since the manifests. Trump jabbed the console, pulling up live feeds. USS Gerald R. Ford evading jammed radar, 12,000 troops on high alert. B-1 bombers circling 200 miles from Caracas. This ends now. Pull the carrier group, de-escalate publicly, blame the Dems for the leaks, say Kelly's video sparked Maduro's hackers. Hegseth nodded, but his voice cracked. Joint Chiefs are unanimous. Readiness at 32%. Dissent memos flooding. If we strike land, $50 million bounty on Maduro. It's war. Casualties projected. $1,500 US in week 1, per simulations. Allies. UK's frozen joint. Ops. Brazil's Lula's rallying OAS against us. $22 billion trade hit. Ratcliffe halted, phone to ear. Sir, Schumer's convoys at the gate. Armed escort. They're demanding your appearance for the audit hearing. Bondi's charges against Slotkin? DOJ's dropping them. 55% public backlash. Midterm projections. We lose the House by 25 seats. Trump exhaled, the weight of 74 million votes from 24, pressing like a vice. Fine. Recall the ops. Tell the press? I saved lives from fentanyl, 18,000 dead last year, but Congress ties our hands. The bunker door hissed open. An aide entered, tablet glowing. Manifests confirmed by Reuters, 21 strikes, 0 major seizures. Cartel de los Soles designated terrorists, but no ground incursion authorized. The Andrews perimeter crackled with tension as Kelly reached the chain-link fence, Slotkin and Schumer's SUVs idling amid flashing lights. Protesters chanted "Oath First," their numbers at 15,000, signs waving under sodium lamps. Kelly climbed into the lead vehicle, Duckworth already inside, her wheelchair secured. Court ruled, recall illegal, violation of Senate privilege, Schumer said, handing over the order. Trump's admin concedes, no court-martial, but the bill passes today. Oversight on all ops, $1.2 billion clawed back from Southern Spear. Kelly sank back, rubbing his neck. Personal toll. Gabby's under protection. Threats up 300%. My pension? Frozen pending review. Gallego leaned in from the front seat, radio tuned to CNN. Trump's presser live, his face stern on the dashboard screen. We've achieved peace through strength. No more strikes. Diplomacy with Maduro's envoys starts tomorrow. Kelly and his crew? Patriots, but misguided. The military's oath is to America. The chamber erupted in the feed. Graham stood, co-sponsoring the bipartisan reform. New rules? Congressional sign-off on domestic deployments, independent audits for overseas ops. Slotkin exhaled. Stakes rose too high. International actors, UN tribunal on the 142 deaths. Hegseth testifies next month. As the convoy sped toward the Capitol, rain sluicing the windshield, Crow patched through from the floor session. Bills at 78-22. Systemic change. Resignations. Ratcliffe's out, Burns back as interim. Trump's approval, 39% on foreign policy, down 22 points. Kelly stared out at the blurring lights. The rift mending, but scars deep. Venezuela's grids flickered back online in the feeds, Maduro's voice fading. The empire blinks. Back in the bunker, Trump watched the vote, fist unclenching. We hold the line. For now. The dome loomed as they arrived, senators filing in for the final tally. Kelly took his seat, the chamber hushed, the air electric with reform's ink drying. Personal outcomes etched. Hegseth demoted to advisor. Slotkin eyed for armed services chair. Kelly unbreakable but changed. His videos echo reshaping the oath for 2.1 million troops. The gavel fell. Bill passed. Congress. Split no more? But forever altered. The country's sense? Power checked, not seized, until the next firestorm.